We are rolling. Hello and welcome to Skagit County Track and Field Podcast number 2. Excited for this week's guest, Mr. Kevin Gudgel from Burlington-Edison. Kevin, I know you've been around the county for a long time, coaching track and field. How many years have you been in the county coaching track and field in some capacity?
So you're saying I'm old?
No. Well, that was my nice attempt at saying that.
Yeah, I started at Burlington-Edison in 1999.
99, and you've been there ever since and missed 0 seasons in that time.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, I took over as head coach in 2001, so I was an assistant for 2 years before that.
Okay, cool. Well, like I said, I'm pumped for this interview. Whether you know it or not, you're someone that I've looked up to and kind of modeled some things after just in our discussions. So I'm anxious to get into this. So I'll start us off. We're going to try to make this kind of routine here, but this is your 2-minute drill. So you got 2 minutes. We're going to time you, and I know that you are good with remembering times in your photographic memory. So 2 minutes, just give us your background, the quick and dirty, and it's both your background as a competitor and as a coach.
All right. I started at WF West High School in Chehalis, and I actually was a distance runner there. So I ran 16, 800, and 4x4, and for all 4 years, was fortunate enough to qualify for state in both the 800 and the 4x4. Our 4x4 team set our school record when I was a senior, and 3:24 was our record. I ran second leg on that team. I was fortunate to run with a couple of guys that were D1 athletes, so always makes you look good. From there, I went to Western Washington University. I ran cross country and track at Western. Primarily became very focused on the 800 at that point, and kind of derailed by some injuries my junior and senior year. Ran all 4 years, but kind of had some lower leg injuries that kind of precluded a successful end to a career. So I got into coaching when I student taught. I student taught at Bellingham High School, and so I was able to coach 1 year under Tim Irvin, who's a Hall of Fame coach there at Bellingham. And then when I got done with that, I went into, and I was a substitute teacher, and then I taught at Bayview Elementary School in Burlington. At the time, Burlington had no job openings available, so Stanwood, I had a friend that was coaching down at Stanwood, and they said they had an opening, so I actually went down to Stanwood and I coached sprints and jumps down there under Paul Johnson for 3 years. That was a great experience. And then I actually took 1 year off. Burlington, I was still teaching in Burlington, kind of tired of the commute to Stanwood every day. And Burlington had no jobs open. So I actually, in 1998, I did not coach. I was coaching basketball at the time, so it was took a spring off. And then in 99, they had a job open up. So I took that and coached 2 years as an assistant at Burlington. And then when Ron Whiten, the head coach, retired, I moved into the high school in his teaching job as well as the head coach job. And I started coaching cross country at the same time that same year in 2001. So that's where I've been ever since, and still love it, still have a passion for it, and it's been a lot of fun.
Good. And before we get, Jake, to your question, you mentioned cross country a little bit. Can you just give us real quick kind of what your role has been in the cross country program there at Burlington since you've been coaching there?
So I've been coaching with Sue Wright, who actually, it's kind of funny because we've both been coaching cross country together for over 20 years, almost 25 years, and yet she's an assistant track coach with me, coaching the relays, sprinters, and high jump, and then I coach the jumpers and sprinters. So we don't coach distance and track, even though we're the two cross country coaches, which is pretty rare, I think, in how things go that way. But she and I currently are co-head coaches, but she was the head coach for the majority of our time, over 20 years of it. But we've worked really, really well together and had just a great time coaching cross country together. So totally different sport, but work with a lot of the same kids. So really, really fun to do it, almost year round that way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, so our next questions kind of deal with coaching in the county, and as you've alluded to, you've had a significant time coaching in Skagit County. So, could you kind of tell us what's the best part about coaching in Skagit County?
Well, Peter in the earlier podcast, mentioned the coaches, and I would agree with him 100%. Just especially the last several years, there's just such a good group of coaches that are passionate about it and really like the sport. They're not the typical, looking for someone who might have seen a kid run once and then all of a sudden, oh, okay, you're the head track coach. Everybody's got a passion for it. And so it's been really fun to work with and coach against people that have a passion the same way, but just they're good people. I mean, you guys are good, love hanging out with you guys on the track, off the track, and then everybody else as well. It's just a great group to work with. And then, it's just kind of fun because our kids know each other. And I think that we're not far enough away. A lot of places, sometimes the schools are, 20, 30 miles away. For us, even though we're not in the same town, our towns are, 8 miles apart. And so the kids compete against each other a lot, see each other, know each other. And so I think that lends itself. There's some rivalries that can be formed, but also some friendly competition. And in a lot of events, the kids kind of root for each other, which is kind of cool. And I also kind of feel like in some ways it's almost like an us against them mentality with Skagit County versus Whatcom County. They have so much success up there. And so I think all of us, I know on my end, it's when a Skagit County kid, gets a state spot or beats out a Whatcom kid, it's kind of like okay, yeah, good, gotcha on that one. We've got good kids down here too. So I think that part of it also kind of gives it a positive vibe that way too.
Yeah, I agree.
And our second question on this is, what does the county meet mean to your program? And you can also touch on sort of what the county meet means to you, because Johnny and I are always just incredibly impressed with not only your knowledge of it, but your desire to know so much about the county meet. So in terms of your track program, as your track team's coming into county, how do you guys approach that? And then if you can also kind of reflect on sort of what it means to you personally.
Yeah, I think, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know. I'm a history guy. I teach English, but I don't know. I've always been fascinated with history of any kind, and especially sports history. And so, to have a something that is 100+ years old and the oldest track meet in the state of Washington, it's a special deal. And just to see the connections and the people in the valley that ran in the meet. And I have parents and grandparents that ran in this meet, and their kids are in it and their grandkids are in it. And it's just a really, really cool connection that everyone has. I mean, it's pretty rare to have something. I mean, it's very rare in any kind of sport to have something that is around for that long. So, for me, I never had anything like this when I was, competing in high school. We had our typical league meet and our district meet, but we never had any kind of a meet like this where you have the history and then it means a lot, but it also doesn't have the same level of pressure you're not you lose and then you're done. The season's still going. So it's a little bit freeing that way. I think the kids kind of can maybe even be a little bit more aggressive and take a few more chances, because there's not that finality where, you might go for a record in the county meet, especially those records that are so old, because that you don't have to kind of hold back, because if you go in a mile and die in the last 100 meters, you're not going to end your season. You just didn't get the record. So I think that's a real positive part of it. For us as a program, when I first took over and came into the county meet, I didn't know much about it. I was fortunate enough to coach under Don Erickson, who passed away a few years ago. And Don was a head coach at Burlington-Edison and was a huge, just a track, knew everything about everything, and had been coaching forever. And he coached in Burlington-Edison's program for over 45 years. He's kind of like Dave Salkeld with you guys, just a great guy to have around, because they've just kind of seen it all.
Yep.
And, and he was really, really, the county meet was the big deal for him, and it meant a ton. And for us, I think, especially now, when we started in track, when I started in track, every meet meant something, and you game planned for a dual meet. You would have a dual Cedar Woolley Burlington-Edison, and you would set up your meet and who was going to run what to try to win that meet. And then we even had our league meet at the end of the season, where the same thing happened, and you'd take people and you'd move people to different events and have them in different things. And that's really all gone by the wayside now. The regular season meets, it's all about just getting qualifying marks, and the team score is totally secondary. The sub-district meets don't even count anymore. We don't have a league meet anymore at all. We don't even have a conference championship meet. So, and districts is 100% about qualifying kids for state. Anything else you get out of that, for me, is secondary. But the county meet is the one meet that you can game plan for. You can try to win. There's a trophy. There is bragging rights. There are things on the line, and we count it like that. And it's kind of refreshing. And I think the kids feed off of that, because they know that it is one time that there is something to really play for. That's not an individual qualification thing. So for us, that's a big deal. When I first started, Burlington-Edison girls won the county meet in 1991. And when I first started in 1999, they had continuously won every meet until then. So that was a really big deal for us, is to keep that streak alive. And the goal was to try to win 10 in a row. So we did in 2001, we continued to win, and then we continued to win. And that became kind of a, we don't want anyone else to win that trophy. We want to win every single meet. And so my, kind of a side goal is, when I got to a point where I think we'd won 15 in a row or 16 in a row or something like that, my goal was, if we could win every year to the point where no girl on our team was not alive the last time Burlington lost a meet, to try to win 18. And we won. I think we won. I don't remember. Anna Cordes knocked us off. That was what ended our streak. And I think it was 24, 26, something like that in a row. And it's pretty, amazing that was the case. I mean, I look back at that and I just think, my gosh, how could that have ever happened? But the boys were not good. The first, and I don't know, this is a fact. I'm pretty sure it was 99 when Linda won it with Mount Vernon Christian. And that was a huge deal to have a B school win the county championship. But for us, my first year, we were terrible, and we got crushed in that meet. And I don't even remember what place we got. We might have got 4th or 5th, or
you almost got fired after that, right?
Well, I was the assistant.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Wallace was running. Wallace was actually on that team.
Okay.
Running.
His fault.
And they were, oh my God, we were terrible. And so the girls are winning, and the boys were kind of a joke. And it was kind of that way in general. Like our team, we would have a meet and we'd talk about the meet after, a post meet for just a duel, and girls won 102 to 42, and the boys lost 102 to 42. And I remember my first year, and Ryan will tell you the story. The boys laughed. They thought it was funny. And I kind of lost it a little bit and kind of went off. Like, I don't understand why you think that's funny. Why that's a losing mentality. So that's kind of, we as a coaching staff, like, we need to get the boys to buy in at the same level the girls bought in, because they were the girls, that was a real source of pride for them, and they wanted to do whatever it took to win that meet. And so finally the boys bought in, and we had a nice little streak of our own for them. And then Johnny ended that one and has a couple times, but they it kind of, that's why, I mean, it just is a chance. It's a source of pride for us. It's a historical meet that does still mean something. And so for us, we definitely, we don't have it. I mean, we were one of the big sources of pride for us is there are a couple times we're the only school to have the boys and girls county cross country titles and the boys and girls county track titles all in the same year. And Anacortes is close. You guys last year, by winning the track one, kept them from it, because right now they've got the 2 cross country ones and the girls track one. So they've got a chance to do that this year. But that's once again a big source of pride for us. So that's why.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And I think talking with you in between county meets and anytime that we can get together, I mean, it always comes back to the county meet in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know if coaching track, at least where I'm at now, would be as rewarding as if the county meet went away. I mean, I don't know. Cause like you said, the individuality of that meet and the uniqueness of it is pretty cool. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and you've hit on this, a little bit, but I want you to kind of dive into your influences a little bit more. Can you kind of narrow down maybe your top 3 biggest influences, either on you as a person, maybe your philosophies, maybe their books, maybe their people, who have been your 3 biggest influences and why?
I've been really, really fortunate to have several coaches that were kind of the, long time legend, Hall of Fame type coaches that I've coached under. So that made a huge impact for me. My high school coach was a guy named Don Lakin, and he coached at WF West for decades, and he was still helping them out even as I was a head coach later on. I mean, he I don't know how many years, and he unfortunately passed away probably about 5 years ago now, but he was a big influence. He was a hardcore old school guy. He's from Kansas. He ran and told me, famously beat Billy Mills in a mile, not in a 10,000. But he was not recruited by Kansas. And he was from a very, very small high school. And he played football and then ran cross country by training in the morning. They had no cross country program. So they took him to the league championship, the district championship, and the state championship. And he won all 3 without having a team and only running by himself in the mornings. So it's kind of a hardcore guy, and he was a national champion steeplechaser at Fort Hays State NAIA school, and ran actually in the U.S. Marathon trials in the 60s. But just old school but hardcore, and a very positive guy. I do a thing. One thing that I do is we do for letter points. We do Mike and Ike's. So the kids get a Mike and Ike for every letter point they get after every meet. And so we give those out. And I got that from him. He did jelly beans. So I still do it. I think Peter does it too.
Well, Peter touched on that a little bit too and said he got that from you. So that's cool that's, your influence is trickled.
Yeah, that's Lakin did that. And then I was fortunate enough to run under Bill Rowe at Western, and Pee Wee Halsell, who you ran under as well. Pee Wee wasn't really my event coach. Bill was my event coach in the distances, and just a legend in the coaching, and just he was just he was just kind of a mastermind, and he was very, similar to me, where he just loved stats and loved to just pull out, old stories and stuff. And he knew everyone. He actually was the president of USA Track and Field for a number of years. So he was pretty influential in the sport and had a lot of connections. And so we got to do some really cool things. He had a, coaching officiating class at Western. And so he was another guy I really just got a lot of great information from. And then I coached only 1 year under Tim Irvin, but Tim was a multi-time state champion coach and very, very knowledgeable. Got a lot from him. And then Paul Johnson at Stanwood was also. I mean, these guys are all, it's kind of a dying breed in a way, but like 30+ year coaches that just, have had some amazing athletes and amazing just knowledge of everything. The thing that I was always impressed with was just how much they knew every event and every aspect of track and field. So huge influences. And then Don Erickson at Burlington, same thing. Just these guys you kind of miss them because it's just it's a different era. They were a different kind of coach. They probably couldn't coach now, just because the things bugged them that today. But God, they were fun to talk to, fun to pick their brains, and there's just I can still hear all of their voices, and so it is definitely, all those were big influences on me.
Yeah, and I think influences obviously help make us into the coaches that we are. What would you say, if you were to reflect on yourself, are your greatest strengths as a head coach?
Well, everyone always tells me that they, like at my banquets, they appreciate that I can basically talk. I don't have any notes, and I can talk about every single kid on the team and tell you what they did and tell you stories about their season and how they, and I take a great pride in that. No matter what level the kid is, that I do care about how they're doing. I'm a big proponent in improvement. I mean, that's for me the number one thing is just, did you get better? And so it doesn't matter if your PR in the long jump is 8 feet and you end the season going 10 feet, that's an improvement, or you're a, 18 footer that ends up going 22. It's just looking at the kids, seeing kids, especially ones that also come out. We get kids. I still believe we're the last sport, one of the final sports out there where a kid can literally show up as a senior the first day of practice and end up being something special as an athlete, and you can be surprised by it, and so can they. Where you already know who you got on your football team, you already know who you got on your basketball team. They're playing year round. You see them all the time. A kid who triple jumps in track in spring and comes back a year later, most of them have not triple jumped at all since then. And a lot can change in that time. So I love that. And so, I mean, I guess that's just, why I like track is because of that. But that's the part of it I think is probably my biggest strength is just being able to, relate to the kids, I guess, and try to help to make them better, and want it to be a place where they feel like every kid is respected, and every kid has a place on our team, and every kid can find success in one way or another. That's, hopefully that's kind of what I would say it is. I've had some really successful kids and that have done a lot. I still look at myself as not knowing, like, I feel like, I mean, I guess, inferior in some ways, like, oh, I don't know all that. I can't rattle off all that, the technical stuff about VO2 max and different splits, and I can't, that's not how I coach. And I just, so, sometimes I hear some of these people and I think, God, I don't know any of that. I guess I don't know much, but I like the relationship piece. I'm good with that.
Well, and sometimes it's frustrating talking to you during season because you'll have specific talks about our athletes, and you'll be like, hey, what was their 100 time? It was like I think she ran was 12:3. And I'm like, hell, I don't know. I got to look on athletic.net. The times. I don't even know them. So that I would agree. I think that's something I've always admired / been jealous of, is that you can, it's like a Rolodex up there in that head of yours.
Hopefully I think it's slipping as I get older. It's slipping. I gotta take some of that, the vitamin water or whatever that makes your brain work better.
Well, if you're slipping, our starting points are probably below that still. So I'd say you're in good shape. So at least I can reflect on my own. So now we've are talking to head coaches kind of first. And so as a head coach, obviously you want to know kind of, everything that's going on with your program and everything. But we have been trying to ask kind of what's a specific event or events that you specialize in or could talk a little bit about in terms of your program and kind of what you feel are sort of the bread and butters of that specific event.
So one thing for me, I'm extremely lucky. My coaching staff is an all-star staff, and I've got, coaches that it really allows me. I don't know what I would do at a place where I had to kind of have my hand in everything. I'm able to coach the jumps because I've got so many coaches that just can go and do. I trust them 100% because they are super knowledgeable. Travis and Tanya with the distances, Sue with the relays and the high jump, Ryan with the hurdles, Rob with the pole vault. We've had a couple of different, throws coaches over the years, but every single one of them, from Bree to Wendy and even and before then, they're just they know what they're doing, so I feel to trust them. It's kind of funny because I coach long jump and triple jump and have literally since, I guess, the Stanwood days in the late 90s. And I kind of, Paul coached it and he at Stanwood, but he was kind of, as a head coach, he was kind of torn in some different directions, and he kind of wanted someone to help with that, and especially to kind of take it over so that he could focus on other things. So I read a lot. I went to clinics. I listened to everything he said, and learned a ton. But I've never long jumped, and I've never triple jumped in my life. It's one of those weird deals where, to coach something that you've never done is, I don't know if the kids, I assume they know that. I mean, I tell them that sometimes, like, hey, I don't know, ask that kid how to do it. Mm-hmm. But, I have a lot of kids, they have to demonstrate it. I try to demonstrate like some basic drills. I used to, I can't anymore. So I try to find the best kid to demonstrate stuff. My philosophies, one is triple jump. Not a lot of people do it. And so because of that, I feel like we are able to take advantage of that I think a lot of people are kind of afraid of it as an event, and it does beat kids up. I mean, I will say that it is not a great event as far as, keeping kids healthy. So we try to do as much as we can, especially early in the season. Late in the season, I look at the triple jump as kind of a you're kind of trying to just preserve them as much as possible because they only have so many bounds in them. And so we're probably not able to spend as much time on technique as I would like, especially once we're into probably after spring break. There's a lot of times the kids are just so beat up that you just can't do, the same kind of drills that you could do if you had them like in a year-round program. But my jump thing is I don't know, I would call myself a little bit of a mad scientist, and I kind of tell the kids like, oh, come over to jumps. We use props. I literally every little thing that I'm trying to, we work a lot in progressions. You don't do full jumps. You never do, the full approach. We'll do approaches. That's one thing, but the actual jump part is usually 3 strides, 4 strides, very, very short, 20-foot jumps to really focus on the actual jump technique itself. And so sometimes we're working on the actual takeoff. Sometimes we're working on the landing. Sometimes we're working on a specific like middle phase of the jumps. And I will use anything I can to get their understanding of their body to feel what it's supposed to feel like in the air. So we've got this old, I mean, you guys have the same thing with you've got these old stadiums, right? So underneath the old stadiums, you got all kinds of stuff. So we still have, blocks from the 1930s under there. And I don't know, I go in the shed and I find whatever I can find. Sometimes it's a giant, like a sideline marker for football. Sometimes it's an old pole vault pad. And I'll put them out there and we'll bound over them. We'll jump on them. Sometimes I stack them up and see if, to try to get more height off of the jump. And so, and I always just tell the kids, like, we use props. You guys don't get props in any other event. So we use them. And I also tell the kids that my last year coaching, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a giant trench in the front of the jump pit. I'm going to pour gasoline in it and light it on fire. And I'm going to have them jump over that. And then I'm out. Okay. Because I'll get fired after that. But I just thought, this year, actually, funny story. So the prop thing, we have this volleyball like standard that I was standing on, and I have a javelin, an old javelin. I take a towel, I tape it to the javelin so that they can focus on getting good height in the air, getting their arm up. So I'm standing on top of that standard in the pit, holding the towel, and they're all hitting it. And I feel the tower kind of slipping. And it literally falls, and I like jump off of it, luckily in the sand, landed on my feet. The kids are just silent, and they thought like and my daughter jumped, so she happened to witness it. And I just said, Riley, you almost had to call mom and tell her why dad wasn't coming home tonight.
Yeah, but it was the best long jump you ever had.
It was the best long jump ever. But anyway, I mean, my philosophy on it, honestly, is that just like try to piece together little pieces of the jumps to try to get them to really know what they're supposed to do in the air and how to take off. And we do a lot of progressions, and we kind of just start really, really short, and then we kind of ease our way back as we go. I end up getting a ton of kids out there. I'm really, I mean, I guess it's a strength, but it's also, I'm really bad at telling kids that they can't do something or that they're bad at something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get kids that literally can't make the pit, and I won't tell them, oh, maybe you should try something else. I'll be like, hey, all right, you're getting it. You're getting it. This is working. And so next thing you know, I have 28 jumpers, because, that's something they can do. So it's a good and bad thing, but it's just something that I just think that it's kind of one of those events that a lot of kids can do. Not all of them are great at it, but we try to get them as good as they can be. So not very technical, not a lot of technical jargon on that.
Well, it seems,
I think the philosophy, I was gonna say, I think the philosophy that you're preaching there too is something that I think I transitioned to after a couple of years of coaching, which was, my thing was, let's go full, let's go fast. And that's how you get better. And I think breaking it down and really reducing the amount of full jumps and stuff is something that's a lot more valuable. And I think a lot of times that's something that is learned as a coach, I think, later on. So I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Jake, you got anything more you want me to hit off season?
No, hit off season. I think we're good.
Okay. Kevin, that was good. I think philosophically we align on a lot of things jump wise. So, you talked about a year-round program and how maybe if kids were in a year-round program, that might affect what you do as a coach in season. So can you kind of talk about off-season stuff? And I'm just going to list off a bunch of stuff that, maybe you want to touch on, and then you can run with this here. But what are your athletes? What are your track athletes doing in the off season? If you have it available, would you like them to train with you and just focus on track? Do you want them to do other sports in their off season? And if so, which ones tend to have the most carryover? Are you a big weights guy in the off season? Do you want them to go up north and run club track? What are your off season kind of thoughts?
Well, I'm definitely not I'm a rule follower, so I'm not going to be out there trying to make oh no, I'm just conditioning with my kids when I'm running some kind of track workout. I want the kids to be multi-sport athletes. That's my number one thing. There's fewer opportunities in the winter than we might have, obviously in the fall. So, for us, I love it when they're doing a sport. I love it when they're playing basketball. I love it when they're wrestling. We have a bunch of kids actually that swim, and a lot of our vaulters are divers, which is kind of nice because it's kind of the same kind of thing, body control in the air. Same with wrestlers that are vaulters. But for me, I want them to do something. Our distance runners, a lot of times, if they're not doing a sport, they actually meet in my room after school 3 days a week, and they have a little chart and they fill it out, like how many miles that they run. And so then, and I don't run with them. Well, I couldn't anyway, but if I could, I don't. There's nothing, I'll talk to them about if they have an injury issue or if they want a suggestion on where to go, but we try to make it really organic, like, just meet up, because it's way easier to go run with friends than it is to run by yourself. And so they'll meet up and go run. We've done variations of, some weight stuff in the off season. We've done some, some of that, but not a whole lot. I mean, I don't have that background. So, and sometimes, if we have coaches available that are willing to do it, sometimes, Tanya's put together some weight stuff for the kids. And so we might do here's some things you can do to get ready for track. But I do definitely not, I want them to be excited for track and not, kind of chomping at the bit a little bit, and not like every other sport now is so year round. I don't mind an off-season program. We certainly will send our vaulters. They'll go, if there's any kind of indoor facility, they'll absolutely do that. And we had, Tim Riley down in Seattle. A lot of our vaulters would go down to him, which was great. When we had the Sportsplex in Bellingham, they would all definitely go up there. But, if they're in a program, I have no problem with it as long as it doesn't bleed over into the spring. But I also, some kids get kind of pushed pretty hard in the winter. And I think sometimes that could end up being, they could come in injured, and that you certainly don't want that either. So, I will give kids stuff. I'll give them individual stuff if they want, some, little speed work or things that they could do. But, like, I can't go out there and work with them. I can't, Wallace will pull hurdles out, and we'll have those that they can do. We'll post workouts. We'll give them workouts. But, like I said, we're not out there timing them. We're not out there, we can't, that's part of the deal. And you can't do sport specific. And so we definitely live by that. So not a whole lot.
Okay.
Plus the weather's not great.
No, God, it's not great in track season, let alone,
No.
the winter months. I agree. Okay, we're pushing up against time here. So you are now into the final chapter here. This is our rapid fire section where you are going to be asked some quick questions, and it's 1 or 2 word answers. First thing that comes to your mind after we go. Jake?
You want me to start it off? And these are track forward or adjacent or not at all. So just kind of be prepared for that. So favorite track and field meet you've either attended or participated in?
We took our team down. We've done it twice, actually. The Oregon relays down at Hayward Field, by far best one.
Who was a bigger pain in the rear end to coach, Pete Voorhees or Ryan Wallace?
Oh man. Pete for sure. Wallace was just straight and narrow, anything you wanted. Pete was great. I loved coaching Pete, but definitely Pete was Pete. He had some. He had some. We've got stories, and probably heard some of them, but we'll leave it at that.
All right. My last one, and then I'll hand it off to Johnny, is what's your favorite off-season thing to do? You coach two sports, and you're also in charge of ASB. So I know school year wise, it's pretty intense for you. So what do you kind of do to debrief in the summer or even in the winter months, kind of as you're going through there?
I mean, I love sports. So I watch sports all the time. I'm a huge Husky football fan, so I'm all about Husky football. So I'm going to the Apple Cup. I was at the Oregon game. So like that, I love watching sports. My family loves to travel. We went to England this summer. So Disney, we're big Disney fans. So we'll go. My daughter's a senior this year, so we're gonna take her to Disney World for a senior trip. So love doing that. So yeah, we love to travel. So that's kind of our big like get away from it all kind of thing.
Cool. Okay, 3 more. Favorite Olympic athlete?
You know what? I'm going to say Carl Lewis. Growing up, 84 Olympics. That was right when I was middle school. Carl Lewis was it. 9 gold medals.
Stud.
Yeah.
Okay, long jump or triple jump?
God, that's a tough one actually. I don't know. I like long jump. I'm gonna say long jump. My daughter loves long jump the best, so I'm gonna go with what she likes.
Okay, last question, Kevin. You made it. This one's best coach that's had county ties, but is now retired.
Best coach that has county ties that is now retired. Oof, gosh, that is a tough one. There's some good ones. Way back too that I never coached with. Nelly, I love Nelly. He's got God, he had such a great career as an athlete, and then I'm gonna miss just seeing him at meet. So he's kind of I kind of like Nelly is that he just always knew how to coach him up for county jumpers, throwers. I kind of like Nelly there.
Yeah, shout out to Nelly. The best part about Nelly is that he has a bulldog tattoo with a tiger tail hanging out of its mouth. So good answer is what I have to say.
Wow.
Yep. Kevin, we appreciate you coming on. Always enjoy talking track with you. I think anytime we talk, I learn a ton. And I think, appreciate what you've done for the sport of track and field in our county. I think you've got a legacy that's being built, and we just really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks. I think this is a really cool thing. I love coaching with you guys and against you guys, and look forward to many more great seasons to come.
Jake, you good?
Good. Appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you.